Commencing from the great name of Allah, who is the most merciful and beneficent. Dear fellows, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Tariq Ullah. I belong to Shangara Chawarzi, and I want to become a good doctor and a good server of humanity in the future, to serve the humanity and especially the poor people. First of all, I am very thankful to my respectful teacher, Mr. Wahab sir, to give me a good and golden opportunity to express my views upon my topic. And a great personality, Mr. Shahan sir, the principal of Bunair Mada School and College, Rega, to give me this golden chance to express my views upon my topic. Now, my topic is the poem The Daffodils. So first of all, I will tell you some features of the poet who had written this poem. This poem is written by William WordsWorth. So who was William WordsWorth? William WordsWorth was a major English poet. He lived in the Romanticism era. This era was from the start of 19th century to the middle of 19th century. He born on 7 April 1770 at Cockermouth in Cumbria. He is known as the poet of nature because he wrote his poetry on nature, its beauties and scenes. So what is nature? Nature, everything around us which we see on our eyes, like mountains, trees, water, rocks, anything which appear before our eyes and our environment around us, that is called nature. So William Wordsworth is known as a poet of nature and a scenic poet because he wrote his poetry on the natural scenes, its beauties, and on nature. Nature was the main subject of his poetry. Now come to the topic, that is daffodil. Anyone who knows the daffodils, what is daffodil? Okay, I will tell you. The daffodils is a kind of flower which mostly grown on the waterland or the side of lake or bank of the rivers. So the first stanza is is such as I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over wells and hills. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over wells and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. So in the first line of this stanza, the poet says, I wandered lonely as a cloud. So as a cloud is a simile. And this poem is full of the poetic devices, poetic lessons and poetic beauties. And this stanza, in the first line, the poet has used simile and compared himself to a cloud which are lonely, wandering about on the high over wells and hills. And the second line, when all at once I saw a crowd. So crowd word, this is commonly used for the humans and this is a human characteristic and human activity property. Sorry. No, this is used for the human, and there in this poem the poet used this crowd word for the daffodils. So this is personification. This is also a poetic device. And the third line, The poet says that beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. So fluttering and dancing is also human characteristic, and that are also used for the daffodils. So this is also personification. The summary of this stanza is that, in this stanza the poet is wandering lonely as a cloud that floats on high over mountains and hills, and suddenly he looked into the bank of the river where he saw a great crowd, and he says that that crowd was a host of golden daffodils. According to the poet, that golden daffodils was tossing their heads and they were dancing in the cold air. Actually, the poet praises the beauty of golden daffodils in dance time and morning. He is of the opinion that most the flowers, especially the daffodils, are very happy and they are very frightened in the dance time and the morning. That was the first stanza. Now the second one. And the second stanza, the poet says that content was a star that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, along the stretch and never-ending line, along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their head and sprightly dance. So in this stanza, in the first line, a star. So the poet compared the daffodils to the shining star of the galaxy. So this is simile, and this is a poetic device. Similarly, in the second line, he says that they stretch and never-ending line along the margin of a bay. The poet says that daffodils were that seems that were the never-ending line, and they seems that was not a bank of a river, but they were the sky and like shining stars of the sky. And the third line, $10,000. So this 10,000 that word is called the poetic lesson that poet has used for the daffodils flower. That he says that 10,000 saw I at a glance, and fluttering their hands and sprightly dance. So in this is called poetic lesson, and that cannot be challenged because this is the poetic authority. This is the poetic position. So this cannot be challenged, and the poet has used 10,000 for the daffodil flower. The summary of this stanza is, in this stanza the poet says that compared the daffodils to the shining stars of the galaxy who brighten the sky and continuously shining. And the poet says that when I caught a sight of these golden daffodils flowers, so I saw a 10,000 flower in one sight. Here 10,000 flower is a poetic lesson, and that cannot be challenged. And the poet says that daffodils were tossing their heads and sprightly dance. So tossing. So the poet says that daffodils were tossing their head means the shaking their heads in a sprightly dance and a happy moment. And this was a summary of this stanza. So any question about this topic, please?
What is the main idea of the poem?
A main idea. The main idea of the poem is that the poet described the beauty of the daffodil's flower and the dance time and the morning. And he actually, in the palm of the daffodils, he described the nature and nature beauty in this poem.
What are the poetic devices used in this poem?
Poetic devices. There are many poetic devices used in this poem, like simile, metaphor. In the first stanza, in the first line, he used the simile as a cloud. And the second stanza, in the first line, he used as a star. So this is a simile. and he used personification as many poetic devices in this poem. Please.
Differentiate between simile and metaphor.
Simile and metaphor. Simile and metaphor. Both are the poetic devices. But simile is the indirect comparison of two things. Like, and there's a poetic words comparison word will be used as like, and so other words. And a metaphor is a direct comparison of two words, or two objects or things. Got it?
What is personification?
Personification. To give a living character or living property to the non-living thing is called personification. Like in this poem, dancing is a human character which has been given to the daffodils, so this is personification.
What is poetic lesson?
Poetic lesson. Poetic lesson is a poetic authority, poetic possession, which no one can challenge it or no one can deny it, and this is the authority of a poet. Like in this poem, the poet William WordsWorth has used 10,000, so it is impossible to see 10,000 at a glance, but that cannot be challenged because this is poetic lesson. Any other question?